The moment humans walked away, the galaxy knew conflict was coming. Jack Miller stood at the large window of the Proxima station, looking out at the stars. His hand touched the cool glass as his eyes followed a small transport ship moving slowly. Past the massive space station, 30 years of peacekeeping, 30 years of being the galaxy's problem solvers, and it had come to this. Ambassador Miller, the council session begins in 10 minutes, said Lisa Donovan, stepping into the observation room. Her voice was soft but firm, like always. Lisa had been his assistant for 8 years now, and she could read his moods better than anyone. Jack nodded without turning around. Are the files ready? Yes, sir. All 17 rejected peace plans are included, and I've added the casualty reports from the last 3 human peacekeeping missions. Now Jack turned, his face showing the weight of his decision. Good. They need to see exactly what we've sacrificed. The corridors of Proxima Station were busy with beings from across the galaxy. The massive space station had been built specifically to house the Galactic Council, with wings for each of the 23 member species. Humans, as the newest members, had the smallest section, tucked between the tall, four-armed Andorians and the floating, jellyfish-like cephalians. As Jack and Lisa walked, other beings moved aside. Some nodded respectfully. Humans had earned that respect over 30 years of settling conflicts, stepping between warring parties and finding solutions that others couldn't see. But respect wasn't enough anymore. Ambassador Miller, called a voice from behind. Jack turned to see Kurzakath, the Cephalian ambassador, floating quickly toward them. His translucent body glowed with soft blue light, a sign of worry in his species. I've heard rumors, Kurzakath said, his translated voice sounding worried. Please tell me they aren't true. Jack kept his face calm. We should talk inside the chamber, friend, where everyone can hear. The Cephalian's glow darkened slightly. The Varaxians are being difficult, yes, but that's their nature. Surely you won't let their stubbornness affect our long friendship? This isn't about friendship, Jack said. It's about respect. The council chamber was a huge round room with rising seats around a central speaking area. Each delegation had their own section adjusted for their physical needs. The human seats were simple but comfortable, as practical as the people who sat in them. Lisa took her seat behind Jack as he laid out his files on the small desk in front of him. Around the room, the other ambassadors were settling in. The Varaxian delegation, covered in thick scales and wearing their usual heavy armor, sat directly across from the humans. Their leader, Ambassador Vork, glared at Jack with yellow, slitted eyes. The Talari delegation, with their delicate features and flowing robes, kept glancing nervously between the humans and the Varaxians. The territory dispute between Varaxians and Talari had been going on for months now, with humans trying to find middle ground. The council leader, a tall Andorian named Seleth, stepped to the center of the room. His forearms were raised in the traditional opening gesture. We gather again to address the ongoing matter of the Varaxian-Talari borders, Seleth began. Ambassador Miller of Earth has prepared yet another compromise proposal. Jack felt a wave of tired anger wash over him. No, he said, his voice cutting through the formal atmosphere. I have not. A ripple of surprise moved through the chamber. In 30 years, the humans had never refused to offer a solution. Jack stood up and walked to the center of the room. He looked around slowly, meeting the eyes of each delegation. For 30 years, he began, his voice steady and clear, humanity has served this council as peacekeepers. We have offered our ships, our soldiers, and our diplomats to solve conflicts that are not our own. We have died for your disputes. The chamber was completely silent now. In the last 5 years alone, 347 human peacekeepers have died maintaining borders none of them could find on a map before they were sent to defend them. Jack tapped a button on his wrist device. Above the central area, a large hologram appeared showing faces of men and women in uniform. The faces kept changing. Hundreds of them. These are the humans who died so the rest of you could continue your comfortable lives. These are the price we've paid for your peace. Ambassador Vork of the Varaxians stood up. We did not ask you to interfere in matters that don't concern you, he growled. But you accepted our help. Jack replied calmly. You accepted our blood, and then you rejected 17 different peace plans that would have solved your border dispute with the Talari. Jack walked slowly around the circle, looking at each delegation in turn. The Krivak asked for our help against pirates, then complained when we didn't use enough force. The Andorians wanted our protection from the Morrigan cartel, then criticized us for being too aggressive. The pattern repeats with every species in this room. He stopped and stood tall in the center. Humanity joined this council believing in a united galaxy. We thought our skills as problem solvers would help build a better future for everyone. Instead, we've become your servants, the ones who do the hard, dangerous work while you argue and criticize from safety. Lisa watched from her seat, seeing the shock on alien faces around the room. They had never heard a human speak this way before. Ambassador Miller, said Seleth, his voice concerned. What exactly are you saying? Jack's face was now hard as stone. As of this moment, Earth and all human colonies are formally withdrawing from the Galactic Council. We are removing our peacekeepers from every disputed zone. We are closing our borders to all council traffic. We are going home. The chamber exploded with voices. Some shouted in anger, others in disbelief. A few, like Kurzakath, simply stared in shock. You cannot do this, shouted Vork. Who will patrol the neutral zones? Who will stop the pirates? Who will stand between us and the Talari? Jack smiled, but there was no joy in it. That is no longer our problem. Lisa stood up and handed Jack a formal document. He placed it on the central platform where all could see it. Our withdrawal is effective immediately. All human ships are already returning to Earth space. All human peacekeepers have been ordered to stand down and come home. The Talari ambassador, a small female named Shia, stepped forward. Please reconsider, Ambassador Miller. Without human mediators, there will be war. Jack looked at her sadly. Perhaps there should be. Perhaps then you'll all understand what peace actually costs. Lisa joined Jack at the center of the room. Together they bowed formally to the council. For 30 years we have asked for your respect and received your demands instead, Jack said finally. Now you will learn what the galaxy looks like without us. As the human delegation walked out of the council chamber, a deep silence fell over the room. In that silence was fear. In that silence was the sudden understanding that everything had changed. Behind them, they could hear whispers starting. Worried, voices discussing what would happen next, plans already being made. Outside in the corridor, Lisa looked at Jack. Do you think they understand yet? Jack shook his head. No, but they will. The moment humans walked away, the galaxy knew conflict was coming. They just don't know yet that it's a conflict they can't win without us. The moment humans walked away, the galaxy knew conflict was coming. Captain Olivia Ward stood on the bridge of the Starship Conciliator, watching the screens as hundreds of human ships moved into formation. The massive peacekeeping fleet that had once been spread across the galaxy was now gathering in one place for the first time in decades. All ships reporting in, Captain, said Sam Powell from his station. The young navigation officer's voice was steady, but Olivia could hear the tension underneath. Fleet is assembled and ready for departure. Olivia nodded and looked around her bridge. The crew worked quietly at their stations, each focused on their tasks. They all understood what this moment meant. Open a channel to all ships, she ordered. When Sam nodded that the channel was open, Olivia took a deep breath. This is Captain Ward to all vessels. Our orders are clear. We are to return to Earth space immediately. All peacekeeping missions are officially over. All diplomatic support is ended. We are going home. She paused, looking at the distant shape of Proxima Station growing smaller on the main screen. Some of you have spent your entire careers keeping peace between worlds that aren't our own. You've risked your lives for beings who may never fully appreciate your sacrifice. Today that changes. Today we put humanity first. Olivia nodded to Sam, who closed the channel. Then she gave the order every human ship in the galaxy was giving at that same moment. Set course for Earth, Maximum speed. The conciliator turned, gracefully away from Proxima Station, its engines glowing blue as it accelerated. All around it, hundreds of human ships did the same, forming a massive fleet moving as one toward Earth space. On the Galactic Council's observation deck, aliens from 23 different species watched the human fleet depart. Many had believed the humans were bluffing. Now, seeing the massive exodus of ships, the truth hit home. "They're really leaving," whispered Shia of the Talari, her delicate hands pressed against the viewing glass. Ambassador Vork of the Varaxians stood with his arms crossed over his armored chest. "Let them go. We don't need them." Kurzakath, the Cephalian ambassador, floated silently nearby, his body glowing a deep blue of concern. "You are wrong, Vork. We all need them more than we've been willing to admit." Back on Earth, Defense Secretary Paul Wright faced a room full of reporters. The news of humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council had spread quickly, and everyone wanted answers. "Secretary Wright, is Earth preparing for war?" asked one reporter, her voice sharp with worry. Paul shook his head. "We are preparing for reality. For 30 years, we've been the ones putting out fires across the galaxy. We've been the ones sending our people into danger zones. We've been the peacekeepers everyone relies on but no one truly respects." He looked directly into the cameras. "We are not abandoning the galaxy. We are acknowledging the truth of our position in it. For too long, other species have used humanity as a shield against their own responsibilities. That ends today." Another reporter raised her hand. "What about our allies? The Cephalians have always supported Earth." "Support isn't the same as equality," Paul replied. "Even our so-called allies have come to expect humans to do the difficult and dangerous work. When was the last time you saw a Cephalian peacekeeping force risking their lives to stop a border conflict?" In military bases across human space, commanders received their new orders. Major Ben Rodriguez sat at his desk on Luna Base, reading the message on his screen for the third time. After 15 years of leading troops on peacekeeping missions across the galaxy, his new orders were very different. "Prepare defensive perimeters. Fortify our borders. The galaxy is about to remember why they needed us in the first place." Ben closed the message and looked out his window at the Earth hanging in space, beautiful and blue. For the first time in his career, all his focus would be on protecting human worlds, not alien ones. He pressed the comm button on his desk. "Lieutenant Kim, assemble the officers. We have new orders to discuss." Meanwhile, on the edges of human space, the withdrawal was already having effects. The human peacekeeping ships that had patrolled the Rigelian trade routes were gone, leaving merchant vessels vulnerable. A Talari trading ship named Bright Wind drifted through space, its engines damaged by a surprise attack. Captain Elon Avar. The Talari looked at the empty space around his ship with growing fear. For years, human patrols had kept these routes safe from pirates. Now there was no one to call for help. "Try the emergency channel again," he told his communications officer. "I've tried 3 times, Captain," the officer replied. "No human ships are responding. They've all left the sector." Elon closed his eyes briefly. "Try the Cephalian outpost. Then, they might send help." "The outpost says they have no ships to spare," came the reply after a few minutes. "They suggest we wait for a passing merchant vessel." The fear in the communications officer's voice was clear. They both knew what would likely find them first. The pirates who had attacked them were probably still nearby, waiting to return and finish taking their cargo. For the first time, the Talari captain understood what the human presence had really meant. It wasn't just about keeping peace between major powers. It was about maintaining order throughout the galaxy, in thousands of small ways that most beings never noticed until they were gone. On Earth, in a small meeting room deep within the government complex in Geneva, Jack Miller sat with President Diane Carter. The president looked tired but determined as she reviewed the reports coming in from across the galaxy. "It's happening exactly as you predicted, Jack," she said. "The withdrawal is only 3 days old and already we're seeing attacks on trade routes, border violations, and calls for help." Jack nodded. The galaxy has taken humans for granted for too long. Sometimes you have to take away something before people understand its value. And when they come asking us to return, when they beg for our help, the president asked. Then we negotiate from a position of strength, Jack replied. No more sending our people to die while alien councils debate. No more being the galaxy's servants. When we return to galactic affairs, it will be as equals, or not at all. Outside, night was falling over Geneva. Jack walked to the window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning a hard lesson. Somewhere out there, beings who had taken humans for granted were discovering just how much they needed them. And somewhere out there, Captain Olivia Ward and her fleet were coming home, leaving chaos in their wake. A chaos that had always been there, just waiting for humanity to step aside. The galaxy had never truly known peace. It had only known the temporary order that human peacekeepers provided. Now, it would know what real conflict looked like, and only then would it truly value peace. The moment humans walked away, the galaxy knew conflict was coming. Dr. Ellen Wright adjusted her observation equipment and sighed. Through the large viewing window of Outpost 47, she could see the flashes of weapons fire in the distance. The Morgan cartel ships were attacking a Talari supply convoy, exactly as she had predicted in her report last week. That's the third attack in the Rigelian expanse this week, said Keith Mason, her research partner. He handed her a cup of coffee and stood beside her at the window. 8 days. It only took 8 days after the human withdrawal for the first new conflict to start. Ellen nodded, making notes on her tablet. As xenoanthropologists stationed on this observation post, their job was to document and analyze the behavior of alien species. For years, their reports had helped human peacekeepers understand the cultures they were protecting. Now they were simply watching and recording as the galaxy tore itself apart. The Morrigan cartel has been waiting for this opportunity for years, Ellen said. Human patrols were the only thing keeping them from expanding their territory into the Talari shipping lanes. Keith shook his head. The Talari are already talking about a full blockade of Morrigan worlds in response. If that happens, I know, Ellen said quietly. Millions will starve. But that's not our problem anymore, is it? Her words hung in the air between them. Both scientists felt the weight of Earth's new policy. They were observers now, not helpers. Just as she finished speaking, their communication system beeped with an incoming message. It's from Command, Keith said, checking the sender. New orders. Ellen read the message and looked up at her colleague. We're being pulled back to human space. All observation posts are being closed. Keith seemed surprised. They don't even want us watching anymore? Apparently not, Ellen replied. We leave tomorrow. Pack your things. As the two scientists prepared to abandon their post, similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human presence, which had been everywhere, was vanishing completely. On the planet Vega Prime, a meeting of the Galactic Trade Alliance was in chaos. Representatives from 12 species shouted over each other, their translators struggling to keep up with the flood of angry words. The human withdrawal has caused shipping costs to triple in 1 week, yelled the Andorian trade minister, his forearms waving in frustration. Pirates attack with no fear now that human patrols are gone. The Cephalian representative floated nervously in the center of the room. We must establish our own patrol ships. We cannot rely on humans forever. And who will crew these patrol ships? Demanded the Varaxian delegate. Your people? Mine? None of us have the military experience the humans do. None of us have their resources or their willingness to sacrifice. The argument continued, growing louder and more desperate. Trade agreements that had stood for decades were collapsing without human mediators to smooth over cultural misunderstandings. Species that had maintained cold peace began warming up their weapons. Back on Earth, Commander Diane Lopez reviewed the latest intelligence reports. As head of the Strategic Assessment Division, her job was to track the galaxy's response to the human withdrawal. So far, everything was proceeding exactly as predicted. Phase 1 is proceeding exactly as anticipated. she reported to her superiors during the daily briefing. Multiple conflicts have broken out in sectors previously maintained by human peacekeepers. Trade is disrupted. Diplomatic relations between at least 8 pairs of species have been downgraded or cut entirely. The room was filled with military and government officials, all watching the large screens showing real-time updates from across known space. Maps displayed red spots where conflicts had erupted, growing more numerous by the day. "What about the humanitarian impact?" asked an older woman near the back of the room. Commander Lopez's face remained neutral. "Substantial and growing. Refugee movements have begun on at least 3 border worlds. Food shortages are reported in the Rigelian system due to the Talari blockade of Morrigan worlds. And we're just going to watch?" the woman pressed. "Those are our orders," Lopez replied firmly. "Earth has bled enough for alien problems." In the cold depths of space, the human merchant ship Northern Star moved carefully through neutral territory. It was one of the few human vessels still operating, outside Earth space, granted special permission to maintain limited trade with non-aligned worlds. Captain Alan Foster stood on his bridge, watching as his ship approached the massive trading hub known as Vega Station. Once a bustling center of galactic commerce, the station now seemed eerily quiet, with many docking bays empty. "How many ships?" he asked his first officer. "Less than half the usual number, Captain," she replied after checking her sensors. "Mostly local traffic. The long-range merchant vessels aren't risking the journey anymore." Alan nodded grimly. His ship had special dispensation from Earth government to continue limited trade, making his vessel a rare sight these days. The Northern Star was well armed, a necessity in these dangerous times, but Alan knew that wouldn't stop everyone. His crew stayed alert as they docked at the station. As soon as Alan stepped off his ship onto the station, he was approached by a Cephalian diplomat he recognized from previous visits. "Captain Foster," the Cephalian said urgently, his body glowing with a nervous blue light. "Might I have a word?" Alan nodded, not surprised. This had been happening at every port he visited. Alien officials cornered him, hoping for insight, information, or influence with Earth. "When will your government return to the council?" the Cephalian asked once they were seated in a quiet corner of the station's main concourse. "Surely they see what is happening across the galaxy." "That's not how humans work," Alan explained, sipping a drink. "You pushed us away because you didn't like our solutions. Now you're seeing what a galaxy without solutions looks like." The Cephalian's glow darkened with emotion. "But the suffering was happening before," Alan cut in. "The difference is, humans were the ones doing the suffering. Our soldiers, our peacekeepers. Now it's spread around more fairly." Back on Proxima Station, the Galactic Council chamber was in its 14th straight day of emergency session. The grand room that had once hosted carefully planned meetings now held nearly continuous crisis talks. Ambassador Kirzakath floated to the center of the chamber, his normally bright glow dimmed with exhaustion. All around him, the representatives of the galaxy's major powers watched with tired eyes. "We can no longer deny reality," Kirzakath began. "We have spent generations believing ourselves superior to the humans in wisdom and restraint. Yet in mere months without their influence, we stand on the brink of galactic war." The chamber was silent. No one, not even the prideful Voraxians, could argue with the truth anymore. "I propose we formally request humanity's return to the Galactic Council," Kirzakath continued, "with full recognition of their status as equals, not servants." One by one, the ambassadors voted. For the first time in the Council's long history, the vote was unanimous. As the official request was transmitted to Earth, no one in the chamber harbored any illusions about their position. They were not offering a favor to humans. They were asking for one. On Earth, in the quiet office of the President, Jack Miller read the Council's petition with a grim smile. He handed the tablet to President Carter, who skimmed it quickly. "They misunderstood our withdrawal," she said thoughtfully. "They thought it was emotional, a tantrum. They're only now realizing it was strategic." Jack nodded. "The question is, what do we do now?" The President looked out her window at the peaceful Earth landscape. Now, Ambassador Miller, we teach the galaxy how things will work from now on. The moment humans walked away, the galaxy knew conflict was coming. 3 months had passed since humanity withdrew from galactic affairs. 3 months that felt like years to the beings caught in the growing chaos. On the bridge of his ship, Andorian, Commander Zithkar watched as enemy vessels appeared on his sensors. The Talari fleet had finally arrived, just as his intelligence had warned. The Andorian-Talari conflict, once a minor border dispute, had spread to 7 star systems in the short time since human peacekeepers departed. Battle stations, Zithkar ordered, his 4 hands moving quickly over the controls. Prepare for combat. As his crew rushed to obey, the commander felt a deep sense of regret. For decades, such confrontations had been prevented by the human peacekeeping fleet. A single human vessel would position itself between the opposing forces, and neither side would dare fire. Now, with humans gone, there was nothing to stop the shooting from starting. The first energy beams cut across space, and the battle began. Another conflict in a galaxy increasingly defined by them. Meanwhile, in the once peaceful Cephalian Republic, Senator Mira floated through the damaged government hall. Around her, workers cleared rubble from what had been a beautiful ancient building before the bombing. The rebellion that had been merely whispers while humans maintained order had erupted into full violence once they left. "How many dead?" she asked her aide. 27 in this attack," came the somber reply. "The rebels are demanding independence for the outer colonies." Mira's body darkened with sadness. "These are demands we could have discussed peacefully. Why turn to violence?" Her aide had no answer, but they both knew the truth. Without human mediators to facilitate difficult conversations, many across the galaxy had decided that weapons spoke more clearly than words. Far from these conflicts, in the protected space of Earth's solar system, military analyst Ryan Garcia compiled his weekly report. The data from across known space painted a grim picture. "In 3 months without human peacekeeping presence, we've documented 43 new armed conflicts," he told the assembled military leadership. "Trade has decreased by 67% across major routes. The Varaxian Trade Federation has collapsed entirely. 3 species now face extinction-level food shortages." The commanders nodded, their faces revealing little emotion. This was the outcome they had predicted. This was why Earth had withdrawn. "And the Council's petition?" asked General Wilson. Ryan brought up a new screen of data. "We've received 17 more formal requests for human return to peacekeeping duties. That makes 22 of the 23 Council species who have now officially asked for our help." "And the Varaxians?" someone asked. "Still holding out," Ryan replied. "Though their ambassador has requested a private channel to Earth, it seems even their pride has limits." The human merchant ship Northern Star continued its limited trading runs. At each stop, Captain Alan Foster found himself approached by increasingly desperate alien officials. During a cargo drop on Vega Station, a high-ranking Talari minister cornered him in a storage bay. "Captain, please," the minister said, her voice low and urgent. "You must have some influence with your government. The death toll in our conflict with the Andorians rises daily. We are prepared to offer significant trade concessions if humans will return to patrol our borders." Alan secured the last of his cargo before answering. "Minister, with respect, this isn't about trade concessions. This is about respect and fair treatment." "We respected humans," the minister protested. "No," Alan said firmly. "You used humans. You expected us to die for your conflicts while you criticized our methods from the safety of your council chambers." The minister's face showed shock at his bluntness. Alan continued loading his supplies as he spoke. "You pushed us away because you didn't like our solutions," he explained. "Now you're seeing what a galaxy without solutions looks like." The Talari minister left without another word, but Alan knew similar conversations were happening wherever humans could still be found in space. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson. On Proxima Station, the Galactic Council chamber had been converted into a crisis management center. The formal debates and procedures of the past had given way to constant emergency sessions as the representatives of the galaxy's species tried desperately to hold things together. Ambassador Kirzakath had not slept properly in days. His body, normally a vibrant blue, had faded to a dull gray as exhaustion took its toll. Yet still he worked, trying to coordinate aid shipments to worlds cut off by new conflicts, trying to broker ceasefires that lasted more than a few hours. "Ambassador," called one of his aides, rushing into the room. "Urgent news from Earth." Kirzakath immediately stopped what he was doing. Any communication from humans had become the highest priority. "They've responded to our petition," the aide said, offering a datapad. Hope flared briefly in the Cephalian's tired body, causing a momentary brightening of his glow. He quickly read the message, then looked up at the anxious faces around him. "Izadin, Carter has agreed to send a delegation to discuss terms for humanity's potential return to galactic affairs," he announced. A cheer went up from the assembled aides and officials. After 3 months of increasing disaster, this was the first positive news anyone had heard. Kirzakath continued reading. "Ambassador Miller will lead the delegation. They will arrive in 2 standard weeks." For the first time in months, a sense of relief spread through Proxima Station. The news traveled quickly to every corner of the galaxy. The humans might be coming back. On Earth, Jack Miller prepared for his return to Proxima Station. This time he would not go as a supplicant or a servant. This time he would go as the representative of a power that the galaxy now understood it could not live without. President Carter had been clear in her instructions. Make them understand that things will never go back to how they were before. If humans return to galactic peacekeeping, it will be on our terms. Jack packed the formal diplomatic clothes he would wear to the council meeting. With them, he included a small box containing medals awarded to human peacekeepers who had died in service. These would sit before him during all negotiations, a constant reminder of the price humanity had already paid. As his shuttle prepared to depart for the orbiting fleet, Jack looked out at the peaceful Earth landscape one last time. For 3 decades, humans had sacrificed to keep peace in a galaxy that took them for granted. Now that galaxy had learned what happened when humans stepped away. "Shuttle is ready, Ambassador," his aide informed him. Jack nodded and turned away. From the window, it was time to show the galaxy what happened when humans decided to step back in. The moment humans walked away, the galaxy knew conflict was coming. The human delegation arrived at Proxima Station exactly 6 months after their departure. This time, they came not as peacekeepers or mediators, but as a power to be reckoned. With Ambassador Jack Miller led the group, his face showing none of the emotion he felt as he walked through the familiar corridors. Behind him marched Admiral Grace Peterson in her formal military uniform, along with a dozen human diplomats and military officers. They moved as one unit, their steps echoing in the suddenly quiet hallways. Beings from many species stopped to watch them pass. Some lowered their heads in respect, others whispered to each other. All of them understood that this moment would decide the future of the galaxy. The council chamber was more crowded than Jack had ever seen it. Every species had sent their highest-ranking officials, not just their ambassadors. They sat in tense silence as the humans entered. Jack walked to the center of the room, carrying a small wooden box. He placed it carefully on the speaking platform so all could see it. Inside were the medals of human peacekeepers who had died serving the galaxy. Admiral Peterson stood at his side, her face stern and unyielding. She activated a holographic display that filled the air above them, showing the current state of conflicts across known space. Red dots marked war zones. Yellow showed areas of unrest. Green indicated stable regions. There was very little green. Council leader Seleth stepped forward, his forearms in a gesture of formal greeting. "Ambassador Miller, Admiral Peterson, we welcome humanity's return to the Galactic Council." Jack looked around the chamber slowly, meeting the eyes of each delegation before speaking. The room was completely silent. "Humanity has not yet returned," he said, his voice clear and strong. "We are here to discuss whether we will return and under what conditions." A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. Seleth seemed taken aback but quickly recovered. Of course, we are prepared to hear your terms. Jack gestured to Admiral Peterson, who stepped forward. In 6 months without human peacekeepers, 17 major conflicts have erupted. Trade has decreased by 63%. 3 species now face extinction-level crises. She changed the display to show a series of battles, refugee ships, and food riots. The images were stark and disturbing. This is the galaxy without human intervention. This is what you created when you took us for granted. Jack took over again, his voice softer but no less firm. Humanity did not withdraw to punish the galaxy. We withdrew to allow the galaxy to understand itself and to understand us. He touched the box of medals before continuing. For 30 years we bled for your peace. We died for your disagreements. We sacrificed while you debated. That ends today. From her seat among the Talari delegation, Shia watched with growing hope. Her people had suffered greatly in the conflict with the Andorians. If humans returned to their peacekeeping role, many lives would be saved. But the next words from Ambassador Miller made it clear that nothing would be as simple as before. We will return to our role in galactic affairs, but under new terms, Jack announced. No longer will humans alone bear the burden of peacekeeping. No longer will our solutions be dismissed, while our sacrifices are taken for granted. Admiral Peterson activated a new display showing a complex organizational structure. We propose a galactic defense force with proportional representation from all member species. Every world that wants protection must contribute to providing it. The terms continued, each one carefully crafted to address the failures of the past. A binding arbitration system that required commitment to solutions, equal representation on decision-making councils, technology sharing between all member species, and most importantly, recognition of humanity, not just as mediators but as a power in their own right. You invited us to your table because we were useful, Jack concluded. You will respect us now because we are necessary. The chamber was silent as the council members considered what they had heard. Jack and the human delegation stood waiting, their faces showing no anxiety, no eagerness for approval. They had stated their terms. Now it was for the galaxy to decide. Surprisingly, it was Ambassador Vork of the Voraxians who spoke first. The scaled warrior rose from his seat, his yellow eyes fixed on Jack. My people are proud, Vork said, his voice a low rumble. Too proud, perhaps. We have lost 3 colony worlds in conflicts that humans once prevented. Our trade federation has collapsed. Our children go hungry. He straightened to his full, impressive height. The Voraxian Empire votes to accept humanity's terms without reservation. One by one, the other delegations followed. The Talari, the Andorians, the Cephalians, each voted to accept. Some did so eagerly, others with clear reluctance, but all recognized the necessity. For the second time in 6 months, the vote was unanimous. As formal documents were prepared, Jack stepped away from the central platform and found himself face to face with Kirzakath. The Cephalian ambassador's body glowed with a mixture of blue relief and purple respect. You planned this all along, Kirzakath said quietly. The withdrawal was never meant to be permanent. Jack smiled slightly. It was a lesson the galaxy needed to learn. Some lessons can only be taught through experience. And now? The Cephalian asked. Will humans truly rejoin us as partners rather than servants? That depends on you, Jack replied. On all of you. We've shown what happens when humans walk away. Now we'll show what happens when we truly commit to staying. Lisa Donovan approached, carrying a datapad with the final treaty terms. It's ready, Ambassador, she said, handing it to Jack. All delegations have signed. Jack looked at the document. That would reshape humanity's place in the galaxy. No longer peacekeepers working at the direction of alien councils. Now they would be equal partners in a new order. Their voice as powerful as their presence. What happens next? Lisa asked as they walked toward the shuttle that would take them to the waiting human fleet. Jack looked back at the chamber where representatives of countless worlds were already beginning the work of implementing the new agreement. Now the Real work begins. The galaxy has seen what happens when humans walk away. Now they'll see what happens when we lead. Throughout inhabited space, as news of the agreement spread, billions of beings from thousands of species shared a single realization. The humans had never been the galaxy's servants. They had been its teachers all along, and the lesson had finally been learned.